Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Today we're going to talk about mutual assured destruction, why it will end, the future of warfare, and why advanced technology must lead to a single dominant global empire. So let's get right to it. I'm going to pull up this article from Zero Hedge. This is from about a month ago. It says China's war machine is betting on the future of drones. A swarm of drones flies through the night sky over the Pacific. Shrouded in darkness and less than 100 miles from the California coastline, they go in groups of 4s and 6s, stalking U.S. Navy vessels. They whir about over the ship's bows, gathering intelligence to deliver to faceless masters. They match the speed of the naval vessels, flying unimpeded in a low visibility for as long as 4 hours at a time. The alarmed crews of the ships have no idea where they came from or what their purpose is. This is not the plot of an up-and-coming spy thriller, but a series of actual events that took place in July of 2019. Now here they have a picture of a Chinese drone here. It looks like basically a large unmanned airplane. I don't think that that's the actual drone that they're describing in this. I think those are much smaller. Not significantly smaller, but small enough that they could evade detection up until they're right up on these naval vessels. So if we move down here, we'll learn more about what this was all about. It says that 2019's, quote, adversary drones were meant to stimulate America's most capable air defense systems and collect extremely high quality electronic intelligence data on them. By gathering comprehensive electronic intelligence information on these systems, countermeasures and electronic warfare tactics can be developed to disrupt or defeat them, the report said. Capabilities can also be accurately estimated and even cloned, and tactics can be recorded and exploited. That swarm could have been and likely was sucking up or helping another nearby platform suck up all that sensitive data on the most capable warships on Earth and at very close range. So what does this mean, guys? This means they're sending in these drones. They're not manned. It's not clear who sent them. It took apparently some matter of time before the United States military figured out that these drones came from China and what they were doing. And even if these are shot down and destroyed, there's no trained pilots that are dying. The Chinese wouldn't care. They would gather even more valuable intelligence from that encounter because they would be recording and transmitting what the reaction of those U.S. naval vessels were to the swarm as it approached, and then they can build countermeasures to that as they move forward and develop more sophisticated drones and as they develop the skills that they want to use in future warfare fighting. So let's go back to this and read Winning the Next War. Such tools have very real consequences for the United States, its allies and partners, and the greater liberal international order. Perhaps nowhere more so than in the acute threat of a Chinese Communist Party invasion of the democratic Taiwan, which has maintained its de facto independence since 1949. Despite that independence, and despite the fact the CCP has never ruled the island, the regime has made a central point of its current focus the forced unification of Taiwan with the mainland. Drones, it appears, are to play a central role in that endeavor. In late 2021, the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, launched a miniature aircraft carrier designed to deploy and recover swarms of drones. Such staging vehicles are designed to work alongside surface combatants to disrupt military operations in the maritime domain by swarming enemy targets or rendering them less effective through distraction. So again, we look at least from China's standpoint, the future of warfare is drones, and not just drones, not the drones we've seen for years over in the Middle East that are basically unmanned airplanes that fly high above targets. They can gather intelligence, they can drop munitions. We're talking about sophisticated swarms of drones that act in a decentralized manner. And we're going to get into that more in a moment. But first, we want to see, what does this have to do with mutual assured destruction? So I'm going to pull up here the End Times Bible Prophecy newsletter from April 2018. And we're going to come down here and read about World War III. It says, "For years, we've heard the next world war will be the final war on Earth. Conventional wisdom says it's impossible for any nation to survive World War III. Conventional wisdom says World War III will annihilate all of humanity. Conventional wisdom is wrong." So think about that. For years, we've heard, I don't know with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. I believe that quote's attributed to Einstein. There's all sorts of beliefs that if we have nuclear war, that's the end of life on Earth. And that may be true in an all-out nuclear war. But the belief is that if there's World War III, well, eventually everybody starts firing off their nuclear weapons and it's the end of the world. But that's not true. Why? Because conventional wisdom is based on the idea of mutual assured destruction, MAD. MAD is the belief no one can win a war between two nuclear powers. It's the idea that fear of total destruction will restrain any nation from provoking war with a nuclear power. Conventional wisdom assumes the doctrine of MAD will rule the world forever, that it will always be in place. In the current era, that may prove true, and that means, in our present time, since 1945 until now, we have prevented World War III, but that doesn't mean it'll always be the case. And this says, because a day is soon coming when MAD will be obsolete. We're about to enter a period of time marked by rapid technological change. If you think we've already been living in such a period, you're right, but the past 100 years of progress pales in comparison to what's around the corner. Swarm technology is only one of many new technologies threatening to upset the balance of power and render MAD obsolete. Technologies like molecular manufacturing will allow nations to scale the size of their military forces. With molecular manufacturing, a nation could create billions of swarming drones at relatively low cost and in a short time frame. Technologies like artificial intelligence will give nations the ability to direct those swarms, analyze targets, and attack enemy networks. In such a world, the list of potential threats and attack scenarios will multiply, creating suspicion and distrust among the world's superpowers. A digital or high-tech Pearl Harbor will prove fatal, and that makes the world much more dangerous, because fear of such an attack makes a preemptive strike much more likely. So think about that. Pearl Harbor, the United States got attacked, but they had a huge benefit. They were surrounded on both sides by vast oceans, right? And that gave them time to prepare a reaction, a countermeasure to that attack, a defense to that attack. In a world filled with swarming drones and artificial intelligence, if you have another Pearl Harbor, there's no recovering from that. That's it. So to get an idea of the visualization of what we're talking about here, we're going to take a look at this video. This is on YouTube. It was put up over 5 years ago. And let's just see what they have to say in this.
Flying a single autonomous drone already has its challenges. Now multiply that by 25. That's what scientists at the University of Southern California are doing, creating flocks of coordinated drones capable of intricate, synchronized maneuvers. Their aerial performances are the result of complicated coding and algorithms, which ensure that each drone maintains its own path, avoiding the airspace of its neighbors. The drones are monitored by a series of cameras which track and coordinate their every move, relaying information between the robots and a master computer.
Coordinating teams of robots is an extremely difficult problem. In general, if you're trying to solve a complicated task, you have to try to figure out, what is that task? How do you define that task for the robots? How do you break that up into pieces so that each robot can do each of those different pieces? And then how do you ensure that each of the robots actually does the job so that the entire team can be successful? And so what we're watching here is a very kind of successful demonstration of teams of robots coordinating to do different tasks.
Those different tasks could range from things like search and rescue to coastal and border surveillance to wildfire monitoring.
They could also range toward military applications, right? Not just surveillance and intelligence gathering like we read about in the Zero Hedge story with China following those naval vessels. But what happens when you arm these drones? So along those lines, let's take a look at this recent tweet on Wall Street Silver. It says, remember those cute dancing robots from Boston Dynamics? And if you haven't seen any Boston Dynamics videos, just look those up online. You'll come across a lot of robots that resemble people or dogs, and they can go up and over obstacles. They can do all sorts of things. It's amazing. But it says this is the version with the, quote, other software update for when you get out of your lane. So what they've done here is they've attached, let me keep this going and I'll turn the volume down. Looks like they've taken, this is a very crude version of an armed drone. So what they've done here is it looks like they've taken a firearm that would normally be used by a human and they've just strapped it on to this mechanical dog. But these dogs can navigate obstacles, they can go up hills, they can go over stumps, they can open doors, crawl in through windows. Now imagine once they integrate, and again, this is a video that we're seeing. There's much more sophisticated stuff that's out there that we aren't seeing, that's been developed, where they've integrated firearms into these drones already. And now imagine a battlefield filled with these, where you've got 100, 1,000, 10,000 of these, right? And then let's take a look at this next video. Oh, this was made more recently than the previous one we watched with the coordinated drones. But let's take a look at this and imagine if you were being pursued by these. Now look at the speed at which these drones are moving through the forest. Imagine you're trying to get away from them. There's going to be no escape, right? So it says they use onboard sensors and they share information from one to the other. So even if you took one of them out, they're going to be talking to each other. Even if you took a second one out, the others are still going to be going after their target, whether that's surveillance or whether that's to render you useless, whatever it may be. And keep in mind, it says drone swarms are usually controlled by a central computer, but these are able to react and adapt quickly without a centralized function. So again, that means you can't just take out one or two. You've got to take out all of them, and that's going to be very difficult unless you have your own swarm or some sort of new technology that is adapted and created specifically to disable swarms. So let's go back to this Rise of the Drones newsletter and let's read about what that future warfare may look like. Now that we have a visualization, an idea of what that may look like, and I don't think that even gives us a correct visualization of what it'll look like. We're talking about much smaller drones in the future. Synchronized drones let us see the future of warfare. Why do I say that? Let me ask you another question. Have you ever seen a large flock of birds flying in unison? They look like a cloud, and the whole flock can shift left, right, up, or down, all in a split second. Despite their quick shifts, these birds act as one. They aren't disorganized and disjointed. They fly in perfect harmony as if they have a single mind. We observe similar behavior in schools of fish, bees, locusts, gnats, and all sorts of animals. Now imagine one of these groups is coming to get you. That's right, imagine a swarm of bees is coming after you. Would a shotgun do you much good? Not really. You can fire into a swarm of bees and you might take out one or more, but you know what? The swarm is going to keep coming. This is because the power of a swarm is decentralized. A single strike won't stop it. Sound scary? It should, because this is the future of warfare. It's called swarm technology. As technology advances, synchronized drones will get smaller and smaller, faster and faster, and ever more powerful. In the near future, one nation will use them to attack a nation only armed with conventional weapons. What do you think will happen when combat drones traveling like a swarm of bees attack a conventional army? How effective will tank fire or heat-seeking missiles be when directed at a swarm? That's right, they'll be just as effective as firing a shotgun at a swarm of bees. Have no doubt, this is where our world is headed. Those nations who are first to develop swarm technology will rule over those nations who are slow to adapt. History has proved this lesson time and again. Think about it. Charging columns of soldiers were once effective until machine guns arrived. Racing soldiers on horseback were once effective too, until armored tanks arrived. We can all cite countless examples of new military technologies making tried and true weapons and tactics obsolete. The same will prove true with swarm technology, and it will completely transform the world's current balance of power. Now, let's talk about the swarm technology. In and of itself, it's just one technology, but when you marry that technology with molecular manufacturing, which will enable a nation to manufacture items with atomic precision and vastly increase its resources in a very short amount of time, so they could manufacture billions and billions of drones at scale very quickly in a matter of weeks, if not days. And then you put those together with artificial intelligence and the ability to rapidly innovate. This takes all of the pillars of mutual assured destruction and throws them out the window. In the past, you had two nations armed with nuclear warheads. The threat is, if I use mine on you, you use yours on me, and we'll both be gone. But what if there was a way I could guarantee that I could disable you from even using that nuclear weapon? Now I can preemptively strike. MAD goes out the window. And when you have these advanced technologies, especially with artificial intelligence, where you're developing at such a high rate, it creates this distrust, or this misinformation can make governments make erroneous decisions. They don't know how advanced is my competitor. Are they going to come attack? And so it creates this unstable situation where whoever is the leader in these technologies, in order to avoid an unstable arms race that is going to destroy the world, they have to use that advantage to conquer the world and eliminate any competition. And so at some point in the future, that's going to happen. The Bible tells us that if that happens, then the one who is going to do that is the Antichrist. And we happen to live in the time where we are on the verge of this very thing happening. As technology advances, we're going to get to a point where some nation develops artificial intelligence, swarm technologies, and molecular manufacturing, and those things are going to combine to create an overwhelming force that all the collective militaries on the face of the earth cannot stand against. They will not be able to do war against such an overwhelming force. And that force will have to be used to conquer the world, whether your intentions are good or bad, because if you don't, then you create an unstable situation where you have two or more of those powers that eventually are going to engage in a cataclysmic war that will destroy the earth. So guys, we are approaching the end of this age. All the signs are there. Jesus said to look for certain signs. We see those signs appearing. We see what's going on in the world, and it aligns with we're coming to a head. We're coming to the end of an age, and it's going to lead to something different. I think it's all leading to the return of Jesus Christ. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. Make sure to like and share this video, and God willing, we'll talk again. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.